Last week, I did a video about Cowley County, Kansas, and I ended up only getting through about half of the day's filming. And you can see the map right there and the orange highlighter. My route ended up at New Salem, so today we're going to start from New Salem and head up to Floral. Just to the north of that bridge is our first community in this video. This is Floral, Kansas, and you can see how small it is right there from the drone shot. Post office opened in 1870, making it one of the earliest communities established in Cowley County. And it's a pretty fantastic old building right there. Post office lasted until 1932. It was a shipping point on the St. Louis and San Francisco Railway, and the name was probably inspired by the abundance of wild flora in the Great Plains region here. And there's not much to see here except for there's, like I said, that one building. There's a couple other things there, and mostly scattering of houses. There might be 10 or 20 people living in this community. It's definitely kind of on a back road, so the main kind of highway in this area has bypassed it, and people moved on to larger towns in the area. And it's just across the way from Timber Creek Lake. As we flip the page, you can see where the lake is there. Floral was just on the left. So we'll check out the lake and then we'll head up to Wilmot. Next up, this is Wilmot, or Wilmot, and obviously in the cemetery. I'm filming this on Memorial Day, so if you've seen a lot of flags today, that would be why. Great to see how even these little cemeteries get some attention. And Wilmot's right over that way. It's just a couple streets, not very many houses, a lot of rundown houses, but they do have a couple of interesting old buildings. There's got a big old church, and then there's a stone building that was just a few pieces left. And so similar story to a lot of these other towns in Cowley County that we've been exploring. Opened up in the 1870s and then eventually dwindled down, and the post office closed and only a few people remaining. So kind of same thing again and again as we're finding throughout these towns. Next up, we're gonna hit a couple incorporated towns. So we're gonna head north and then east up to Atlanta, and then straight south down to Burton. Atlanta was founded in 1885 and grew up along the St. Louis and San Francisco Railway, the Frisco. Unlike some of the older Cowley County communities that began as farming settlements, Atlanta was established primarily as a cattle shipping station on the railroad. Ranchers could drive cattle to the town and load them onto railroad cars for shipment to larger markets. So the post office opened in 1885. They incorporated the town in 1903. They had a naming committee for the town to try to figure out what to call it, but no one could agree on a name. And then a little 15-year-old girl suggested Atlanta, and it stuck. Olympic medalist and world record runner Glenn Cunningham was born in Atlanta, although he actually grew up in Elkhart, Kansas. So when you look at population, the peak was 1920. They're at 379, and it kind of held on for a little while, but as you can see, it's gone down and down, less than half of that peak now at 168. This one might be hard to see though. In 1879, in anticipation of the coming of the Kansas City, Lawrence, and Southern Railroad, the town was surveyed and laid out by a local company headed by Robert Burden. The railroad became the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe, arrived in 1882, and it made Burden one of its stations and shipping points. Post office was actually called Burdenville from 1879 to 1884. Then it was shortened just down to Burden. First newspaper was printed in 1880. It was called The Enterprise. It had a circulation of 900 in 1882. So a little bit different than Atlanta, the population here has maintained a pretty steady level. It did peak in 1960 at 580. It's gone down a little bit. But through school consolidation, the high school is actually here in Burden for the area. So that's probably why the population has been able to be maintained throughout the decades. Now we're on Highway 160, you can see there from Burden to Cambridge. We'll take a little detour to see if there's anything at the dot of Torrance and then head on over to Cambridge. And pulling up to the dot on the map of Torrance, we find that there's nothing left. So there was a post office here from 1880 till 1906, and as you saw on the map, it's right between Burden and Cambridge, so probably was a railroad stop here. And 26 years of a post office, so that means there were some families in the area, but it went right along the railroad. And as you can see, there's literally nothing remaining except the railroad. Here's the very small town of Cambridge. So when the Kansas City, Lawrence, and Southern Railroad that later became the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe was built, a mile south of the now ghost town of Lizette, a new site was organized in 1880 here and named Cambridge after Cambridge University in England. It became a station and shipping point on the railroad. Fun fact about Cambridge, the Public Emergency Radio of the United States was a communications system planned during the Cold War era in the 1970s to be activated in anticipation of a nuclear attack. The distribution stations would be activated by two control stations. One was in Alt, Colorado, and the other was here in Cambridge, Kansas. The system was never implemented. So looking at the history of the town here, peaked in 1930 at 277, consistently dropping off ever since then, about a third of that size down to 92 today. We're going to head northeast through some back roads, and you see the dots on the map, Glen Grouse. There's two of them. Not sure why there's two of them, but we're going to have to go all the way up to the second one to find what we're looking for. Cruising down the road to my next destination, and there's a simple looking sign that says log cabin, and I guess there's a log cabin. I don't know anything about this. Oh, we got some information. Log cabin was built by Dr. It says it was built in 1872. I'm guessing it's been reconstructed a bit. Still very cool. What else they got here? That looks like an outhouse. It's a lot cooler inside here. Ooh, like 15 degrees colder. Well, that was an unexpected surprise. I don't know much about it. Glad I found it. This is another stone arch bridge, but there's really nowhere to be able to see it from. Definitely doesn't get driven over very much, you can tell. Not much traffic through here. Well, that was some gnarly driving to get to where I'm sitting right now. It was all to get to the Glen Grouse cemetery. I have no idea who Glen is. He's gonna make me climb this hill. So there's a post office here in the late 1800s until 1904. And it is very sparsely populated out here. We got some cattle over here and some old headstones. Eva died 1881, 23 years old. And we are way up in the northeast part of the county. I wasn't sure I was going to come up here because it's so out of the way, and I still have one more to go to, but I like to be thorough. I don't think too many people have documented this area. So there's John, he died in 1883. Marjorie died 1885. It's really beautiful, but really hard to get to. Okay, one more to go. Here we go. To get to our final stop, we're going to have to backtrack a little bit and head back south down to Cambridge, and then you can see where we're heading to the east at Grand Summit Station. Well, we finally made it to the end of this day. It was quite a day. This is where Grand Summit Station was. And there's nothing here. But I know why they called it Grand Summit, even though I didn't find anything online about it, is that we were climbing and climbing as I kept heading this direction. You know, we're kind of in the eastern part of the Flint Hills, and we're probably at one of the highest elevations. So Grand Summit would be an appropriate name here. And probably if the trains were coming up the hill, they needed a place to stop. And this would have been a place for them to stop. So yeah, but there's nothing here anymore. There was a post office from 1882 to 1933. And so 50 years of a post office here. So there was definitely some sort of a community and worth having a post office and probably a railroad stop, knowing it was called the station. So anyways, what a interesting day. I didn't quite know what to expect. There were some really awesome bridges, a lot of those arches, some really cool small towns, and obviously a lot of ghost towns and a lot of nothing. You know, this was the northern half of the county. I'm sure the southern half of the county is going to be just as interesting when we get around to exploring it. So hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of Cowley County, Kansas. Now that you made it to the end of that video, let me tell you about some of the extras on the channel. One of the things you can do is become a member. There are 3 levels of support. There's supporter, producer, and executive producer levels. All 3 have different levels of fun incentives and perks. If you haven't done so, please check out travelwiththewiseguy.com. There are lots of extras on there to explore. One of them is merchandise. We have Travel with the Wise Guy coffee mugs, Death Go Round t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and all sorts of fun things to show your support of this channel. Also on the website is a custom Google map. I've dropped pins in every place I've visited and linked the episode to each location. This seems to be a very popular feature for many of you. Also, sign up for my free newsletter that goes out about once a month. There are all sorts of links and tidbits on this page, old videos, podcasts, and just about everything I can think of I throw on the website. For all that information and more, go to travelwiththewiseguy.com. And now, the reason you're probably here, the outtakes. We're in Atlanta, but we're not in Georgia. But we did find a death go round. Well, looks like it's been a while since I had a paint job. The sun has faded it some. A small one. Not the greatest one. It's okay. Definitely for the little kids. 6.3.